Video this. You got it?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, action.
If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut.
The Jimmy Butler era for the Miami Heat might be one of the most polarizing eras in all of basketball history. On one hand, Miami Heat have always been contenders in one way or another for the Larry O'Brien trophy. At the same time, they've always come up short. And now when you factor in Jimmy Butler's age and injury history, there is a question about whether or not the Miami Heat should even bring him back. As it stands, the Heat are currently undecided on offering an extension to Jimmy Butler, and there's a variety of directions that they can go in. Before we get to the content, make sure you check you're subscribed and check us out on Instagram and TikTok if you want to get some additional bonus content. Now that we get all of that out of the way, cue the intro. We just turned $25 into $225, $35 into $105 the night before, and now PrizePicks is giving us another free square. All Caitlin Clark needs is 1 point in her WNBA debut, and her square will hit. I give away all my picks for free on my Instagram story at TheFlightMike, and you guys have been hitting me up in the DMs letting me know how well it's been going for you guys. And right now, you'll get up to a $100 deposit match when you use my promo code FlightMike when you sign up for PrizePicks, or just click in the link in the description down below. And thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Miami Heat culture is unlike any culture in the entire NBA. This team's identity is so strong that they've made household names out of players that would probably be obscure if it wasn't for their culture. You don't believe me? Well, look at what the Los Angeles Lakers did to Gabe Vincent. This man was a stud for the Miami Heat, and all it took was playing for Darvin Ham to fuck him up. If you need any more evidence of the Miami Heat culture, look at what happened to Dion Waiters when he was playing for the Miami Heat. Look at what's become of Dion Waiters now. This team has always hit on its draft picks and really knows how to make the best out of each and every player. Whether it's Chaim Jaquez in the middle of the first round, or Tyler Hero in the lottery, or Duncan Robinson who was undrafted, or Bam Adebayo who was considered to be very raw coming out of Kentucky, the Miami Heat have always developed their players into either quality role players or stars. The one exception of this rule was Jimmy Butler. You don't necessarily see Bam Adebayo catching a lot of headlines. You don't really see the same thing from Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero. But Jimmy Butler definitely has a history of catching headlines, whether it's for pulling up to practice and challenging his Minnesota Timberwolves teammates to a 5-on-5 before yelling at the general manager that they need him, or if it's selling coffee in the Orlando bubble for $100 a cup. But on the basketball court, the Jimmy Butler era is one of the most unique scenarios that I think I've ever seen in NBA history. Just a brief overview. During the 2019 offseason, Miami Heat decided to sign Jimmy Butler to a max contract. So Jimmy would leave the Philadelphia 76ers after playing with them for a few months, shortly after this moment from Joel Embiid, which would lead to Jimmy Butler saying this a few years later whenever the Philadelphia 76ers faced off against the Miami Heat.
Tobias Harris over me?
But in year one of the Jimmy Butler era, he was able to lead the Miami Heat all the way to the NBA Finals. And when you go back to the NBA Finals versus the Los Angeles Lakers, he was able to do this with an injured Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic. Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson single-handedly brought the Miami Heat to Game 6. So the sky was the limit for this team. In 2022, the Miami Heat were literally one shot away from the NBA Finals, one shot away from defeating the Boston Celtics, and then they would have faced off against the Golden State Warriors, a team that they could have potentially beaten. Most recently in 2023, this Miami Heat team was able to enter as an 8th seed, defeat the top seeded Milwaukee Bucks, and absolutely decimate that franchise, by the way. Coach Bud doesn't get fired and Drew Holiday doesn't get traded if it wasn't for the Miami Heat defeating them in the first round last year. Then defeats the New York Knicks before beating the Boston Celtics to meet the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Finals. The issue is, once again, this team was heavily injured. And once again, in 2024, Jimmy Butler wasn't even able to make it to the first round. Now, the main part that the media is really focusing on here is the back and forth Jimmy Butler had with Pat Riley, where Jimmy Butler said this.
Video this. You got it?
Yep.
1 2 3, action. If I was playing, Boston would be at home, New York damn sure would be fucking at home.
And if you guys know Pat Riley at all whatsoever, you know that he really doesn't like this type of behavior from his players. So this is Pat Riley's reaction to it.
You know, for him to say that, you know, I thought, is that Jimmy trolling or is that Jimmy serious? You know, if you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut in your criticism of those teams.
And then there's the question about what is to become of Jimmy Butler. Throughout his entire Miami Heat tenure, Jimmy Butler and the Heat have always been in the thick of things. It's almost like their regular season performances are relevant because they always get it together in time for the playoffs. This team is so well coached and has this incredible blend of young talent that's starting to hit its prime and savvy veteran leadership in the form of Jimmy Butler. The question is, how much longer can Jimmy Butler keep it going? And is this relationship as fruitful as one might think? Well, when Pat Riley was asked about this situation, he mentioned that the Miami Heat are undecided on offering an extension to Jimmy Butler. He's eligible for a 2-year contract extension with the Heat worth as much as $113 million to cover the 25-26 season and the 26-27 season. Pat Riley revealed that the Heat have not internally discussed that possibility yet. We have not discussed that internally right now. We have to look at making that kind of commitment, and when do we do it? We don't have to do it until 2025 actually, but we'll see. We haven't made a decision on it and we haven't really in earnest discussed it. The big issue here is obviously Jimmy Butler's injury issues. Do you think that's going to mitigate during his mid-30s in what could be his final big contract? Pat Riley went on to say that's a big decision on our part to commit those kinds of resources unless you have somebody who's going to be there and available every single night. And that's the truth, which is absolutely insane. He's pretty much calling out the fact that Jimmy Butler is never healthy, and that's why the Miami Heat are a little hesitant to pay him the max. So you might wonder, okay, if that's the case, then does Pat Riley want to trade Jimmy Butler? Pat Riley has proven in the past that he is absolutely ruthless whenever it comes to moving on from star players. I mean, he let Dwayne Wade walk away to the Chicago Bulls, and Dwayne Wade partially did this because Pat Riley wouldn't ever give him a max contract, and this is despite Dwayne Wade taking a pay cut to team up with LeBron James and Chris Bosh in the Miami Heat Big Three era. Pat Riley paid Chris Bosh more money than Dwayne Wade. So can we see that happen once again, this time with Jimmy Butler, a player that's played way less with the Miami Heat than arguably its greatest franchise player ever. And bear in mind, I said greatest franchise player ever, not most talented franchise player ever. Big difference. Calm down, bronzexuals. I got you. So when Pat Riley was asked, are you going to trade Jimmy Butler? Pat Riley said, no, we're not going to trade Jimmy Butler either. So there's a huge question of what is exactly the Miami Heat's plan here, because at the end of this contract, Jimmy Butler's options are limitless, and there are a lot of teams that would be willing to trade for him. My favorite option obviously being the Philadelphia 76ers. We discussed this in the past. David Aldridge has this piece on how Jimmy Butler could be the perfect player to extend Joel Embiid's prime. The main reason for this being the fact that Jimmy Butler famously likes to do things his own way, and the Miami organization famously does not brook much individualism. Miami doesn't mind the uncomfortable feelings a player of Butler's caliber can create in search of championships, but Heat culture has parameters and expectations, and Jimmy Butler's never played in more than 64 games in any of his 5 seasons there. And while he bristles at the playoff Jimmy moniker, the postseason clearly matters to him more than January and March games in Detroit or Charlotte or Washington. First things first, I am so shocked at how transparent Pat Riley was throughout this entire press conference, coming out and saying straight up that, yeah, we don't know how much to pay Jimmy Butler right now, considering the fact that he's going into his mid-30s, and on top of that, he hasn't really been available for us. It makes things very complicated, and that's before we get into the brand new CBA. As we've repeated on this channel multiple times, there's a second tax apron now, which once you exceed this tax apron, it becomes very difficult to make trades. The contracts have to match up to 100% of each player's salary, when originally in the past you could go up to 125% of each player's salary. Teams above the new second apron, which was set at $7 $17.5 million above the luxury tax threshold this past season will not be allowed to aggregate contracts in trades, use past trade exceptions, or take back more salary in trades than they send out. Additionally, any team that is over the second apron at the end of the 2024 to 2025 season will not be permitted to move its 2032 first round pick in a trade. So as of February, teams like the Golden State Warriors, Boston Celtics, Milwaukee Bucks, Phoenix Suns, and LA Clippers were all projected to be above the second apron at the end of the 2023 to 2024 season. Ouch! All but one of those teams are currently in the playoffs right now. Somebody tattoo this to Matt Ishbia's forehead for the love of God. This man is operating as if it's the CBA from 15 years ago. I feel so bad for Suns fans. I mean, like, I think that team is so oh my God. And they had so many assets before Ishbia bought the team, and he just came and ruined all of it. But that could be a huge motivating factor for the Miami Heat to move on from Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo's under contract for 2 more seasons. Tyler Hero is currently under contract for 3 more seasons. So signing Jimmy Butler to a contract that pays him over $50 million annually could cripple the Miami Heat moving forward. Now, this might not be the biggest deal for a team that historically is able to turn any role player that they draft into a solid role player. I mean, it's honestly incredible. But Pat Riley didn't get to where he is now by just throwing money at free agents unnecessarily, even though if it's a player like Jimmy Butler's caliber. At the end of the day, I think we need to come to terms with the fact that this could be Jimmy Butler's final season in a Miami Heat uniform. Not this season, but the end of next season. It wouldn't shock me if he's traded at the trade deadline. But what I think the Miami Heat are really trying to do is figure out what kind of Jimmy Butler are they going to get post-injury? Is he going to be battling through injuries consistently, or is he going to return to the old Jimmy and maybe even make it through a full season? Because at the end of the day, these are all leverage points for signing Jimmy Butler to a bigger contract. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below, especially if you're a Miami Heat fan. Would you like to see Jimmy Butler get traded? If you're a team that could use Jimmy Butler's services, say like the Philadelphia 76ers or the Orlando Magic, would you want his services? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.